Hey everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. You'll notice the setup's a little bit different today. We're doing a remote office hours. We're experiencing some snow in Michigan here, so it was not good driving conditions. So um, feel free to give us any feedback on the format and if there's anything we can do to help or go over a couple times just because of the difference in the setup. We're happy to do so. Um, we do office hours the first Wednesday of every month, so it's our goal to help you wherever you're at and answer any questions you have about Office 365 or anything about modernizing your workplace in general. So, um, yeah, we wanted to just open our door and we do this once a month so that you can come in and ask questions, no strings attached, and we'll do our best to help. So, as far as an agenda goes today, we're going to spend the first 15 minutes or so reviewing some common questions that we've gotten from our community. And after that, we're opening the floor to questions. So feel free to drop those in the chat. We're streaming this both to YouTube and Microsoft Teams. It's hard for us to tell how the YouTube side is going just because of the limitations that we have. But worst case, if it's not working out great, I've put a link to the Teams meeting in the chat there. So you're welcome to drop in there, and we can go that way. So I think that's the last thing, that the housekeeping thing that I wanted to share. But with that, I'll hand it off to Matt here, and we'll go over some questions that we've gotten.
Yeah, so first, so everybody knows, this is Mitch. I don't think you've ever been on Office Hours. Like this is the man behind the camera, if you will.
Yep.
Um, so Mitch has
You've heard
been the
my
one kind
voice.
of, yeah, you've heard his voice. So in case if anybody was wondering, that's who this is. Um, and I'm going to talk. The first thing one of the questions we got this month was about Power Apps and related to App OnStart. There's actually been quite a bit of change going on with App OnStart within Power Apps. So first of all, I guess for anyone who didn't know, let me go through what it is, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about how it's changing, which it's still in the process of changing. It's not. I wouldn't consider it to be final by any stretch of the imagination. So basically, in a Power App, um, you may have things that you want to run when this application first opens up. So maybe you want to collect some data, maybe you want to go get who the current user is and store that off. Where that has traditionally been done is in a property called Onstart. So Onstart is right here. It is basically just a property that I can do kind of whatever I want. And so this would, yeah. That better? Should be. So the OnStart property allows you to basically do whatever you want. And what was originally happening is you would be guaranteed that everything that was you included in OnStart was going to execute before the first screen displayed. Okay. And people would do a lot of different things there. People would, number one, put a navigate. So maybe you search for, you try to figure out some properties about maybe who the user is, and maybe they're a special role that you want to show a different screen. They would navigate. They would capture some data on in the OnStart and set it up before the first screen loaded. What Microsoft is basically saying is, um, that's all well and good, but the experience for the end user can be really poor. And the reason for that is because nothing on your screen will be shown while this is running. And so if you imagine you're doing maybe a lot of different things, it can take a long time for that user to load up. In addition, it's blocking, so it's slow to makes the app slow to load. So one of their so they're making a lot of changes to try to help with that. Some of them are um, kind of natural. Some of them are a little bit may seem a little weird. And the way they're doing it is, I believe in some environments as of right now, when you create a brand new app, you actually won't have the option to use OnStart in the same way. However, if you may be aware of this, but there's lots of ways within Power Apps to go basically enable or disable different features. And so if you saw what I did, I went File, Settings, and then in this, there's upcoming features. And so there's preview features, experimental features, and retired features. I'm going to start with the retired features. These are features that they had at one point in time and then decided they really don't want to have anymore. Um, so one of the things is navigate function and app on start. Right now, this is turned off. And what this means is that with this turned off, it used to be, like I said, that you could navigate. You could say, hey, I want to navigate from OnStart when you first load into this page. Now, this is turned off by default. If you want that functionality, let's say your app is built using that, you need to come in here and turn this on. There is another option which I'm going to get into that is the modern way of doing that, because they didn't just get rid of the ability to navigate to a specific screen when you start. But there are a couple other ones related to OnStart that I wanted to mention. And I think it's actually in the preview. So in preview, you'll notice the use non-blocking OnStart rule. So this is turned on, and what this means is no longer will the OnStart rule or property force the app to wait. So what's going to happen is your app will start loading immediately, effectively, right? It's not going to wait for this OnStart to happen before it goes and does the next thing. So that's the options that you can configure. Let's talk about if I don't want to re-enable this retired property or this retired feature, how do I do the same thing? So what they've done is they've created a new thing called navigate to start screen. So they have a new property called start screen. So if I go down here, what this allows you to do is basically uh, it allows you to say, anytime this app starts, this is the screen I want to go to, right? And so one way that you can make a program or make a app do something very similar to what previously was done within just the on start would be to set my start screen to be, so I'm going to create a new screen. And I'm going to rename it. And I'm going to go in here, go to start screen, and I'm going to do. So now what's going to happen is when this app loads up, the first thing it's going to do is go to the start screen. And so what this allows you to do is put in, for example, some text perhaps. Loading, ... right? And then basically you can do something in here where you basically check for when certain things are loaded, or you let me go to the tree view again. On the load of the screen, so on visible of the screen, you can do some work here in addition to whatever you're doing in the start screen or in the app on start. So again, you can navigate to start screen, which is going to so if I was here, it's going to take me to the start screen. You can also do this run on start, which still exists today. But again, the start screen no longer navigates you to a screen. And by default, it does not stop other properties or rules from running when the application is first loaded. Mike, did I miss anything there?
No, I think that's pretty good, but you might keep that example handy because one part of one of the later questions touches on how to navigate. And if you want to go through it right now, we can. But the question was if I'm a particular role or there's something about my user, right? How do I navigate to a particular screen based on that?
Real quick before we switch, I wanted to add a little bit of context to this question because someone had downloaded the Power Apps theme template and was asking me, how do I run the app on start? And I said, oh, it's just in this drop down, hit the little three dots there and click run on start. and
Yep.
they found out,
This was missing.
yeah, it's not even there. So it needs to be re-enabled if you want to use the theme template as is today. So
Yep.
Which to be clear, their Microsoft's end strategy is to get rid of OnStart completely. The tenant that this person was in apparently had it already removed. Ours, or the tenant that I'm working with right now, this one, it has it currently, and there's not the option to enable, disable it. But that's what's going on. If you're missing it, you need to go back and reactivate it. But then the next thing is, it is going away, so you need to start thinking about how you would go do that using another way, another method.
Yep, and I'll add to that. I think we have plans in the future to update that theme template to deal with that change.
Correct.
Because of the amount of logic that we have set up in the app Onstart for the theme template.
In regards to what's going on here, so to navigate to something different, the way I would do that in the current functionality is I would, on visible of this screen, I would say something like, let's say, what's a good way to do, let me do it this way. I'm going to do it this way.
The example, or what I've done implemented in the past, was just a simple timer. So that it allows me to set stuff up in the start screen, and then when that timer ends, I, go navigate to wherever I need to go. In this scenario, I think the question was simply, if I'm an admin user, I want to go to screen X.
Yeah, so I don't have a role set up, but if it would be something like this.
Well, can we just get the user's email address or something?
Yeah. Email equal. The question now is I don't remember what this account's email is, but I'll figure it out. I think it's.
Click your little profile icon in the upper right.
Yeah, I think
to
that's
make sure.
Navigate. To else navigate. Which doesn't exist yet. Insert new screen. So now we've got a screen 3. Yeah. I don't. Yeah, can't be used. Yeah. So, in this case, when you're navigating, like you said, what I would do is insert. Do you know which one is the?
I always just search for it. It's just called timer.
Yeah. So timer is a great way to just delay a little bit. And so in this case, on timer end.
Yep. And then you want to set it to auto start.
Yep.
And change your duration to like 3,000 or something. Because right now it's set to a minute.
Auto start. So something like that. So now if I go back to my app, and I go to navigate to screen Onstart, let me actually play this. And I should have put words on it because now we can't tell. So screen 3, I will put a text label. And we'll add another one here for this to do screen 3. And so if I play this, actually I gotta go to app, navigate. And I gotta actually play it there. So it went to screen 2. And then if I change this to the timer to be not equal. Is it? Yeah, there we go. So then if I then go back in here, it's going to take me to screen 3. Does that answer the question that you were talking about from earlier?
Yeah, it does, I think. In our suggestion, in our response to the original question, we had simply, pointed out that you could get at the user properties or find out if they had a group membership, or there are various things that you can go after as far as like the Office 365 Outlook and Office 365 groups and those different types of connectors that are there. But it all, again, depends on the scenario that they have. But yeah, I think that answers the question. Are we ready for the next one?
Yeah, I'm actually going to talk about one other thing. So another way to handle something like this would be to so let's say, because somebody may ask this question, which is to say, that's great, you have the user data here, but let's say you really do need role data, which comes from somewhere else, right? So let's say that role data is pretty complicated and is going to get loaded up in like what you would traditionally have done in app Onstart. You can still kind of address that by simply setting, like, let's say that in app Onstart, Onstart, I set a so you can do the same thing by basically setting, what did I do wrong here?
Get rid of the quotes.
These ones. So basically what this will allow you to do is basically you can do some work. So do some work to figure out whatever you want and set then this loaded value. And then instead of here where we have auto start to true, you can basically set auto start to false, and then start equal to loaded.
Yep. So I'll take you back one step. What happens when app Onstart is gone? Where do I set that?
So once app Onstart is really, really gone, Microsoft is supposed to set create something that they would be synonymous or similar to it. They have yet to have provided a lot of details about what that would be. But for example, if I had a bunch of stuff that's there today and I wanted to convert it for today, something like this is what I would do.
Could you do it just simply in the on visible of the start screen?
You can do it, except the on visible of the start screen will happen immediately before the work is done. So you could do all of your loading in the on visible. So you could so yes, to answer your question, you could on visible put all of the work that you did in the on app here on visible, and then at the end of it you could do on load as well. Yep. But basically something like that is the way that you're going to be accomplishing the same type of task. But so to be really clear, if I were trying to have a quick win to get something up and running that stopped working or that I want to convert, I would just add that loading to the end of it, add this timer to a loading screen, make the loading screen look pretty and have like a loading or whatever message you want, and hide this, make this invisible, and then basically have it run when the loading is done. The next step to get rid of OnStart would be to put my code into the on visible of the start screen. So in here, and then basically at the end of that, again, say loaded, and then this would actually go trigger it.
Yep, makes perfect sense. Okay.
Ready for the next one?
Ready for the next one. So the next one, let me share my screen and get that going. All right, so the next question basically had to do with custom SharePoint forms. And somebody had basically multiple, and I think they had looked at a previous blog post or video that we had posted, and they had multiple SharePoint forms. As far as custom list form, there's multiple screens in the form. And they want to basically create a new item in the list. And when they save that, the challenge that they're having is each of those forms is getting submitted, because our original example basically said in the SharePoint integration component of the custom form to submit each form, and I'll show you that in a minute. And in their case, it's actually creating multiple items in the list. It's duplicating them. And I don't know exactly why that is, because I have not experienced that issue directly. I suspect it's because we're all in slightly different tenants and slightly different versions of Power Apps, and there's something different that's causing that to happen. It could also be the way it was implemented, but there is another safer way to do that. So let me just really quickly show you how this custom form works. I have a simple issue tracker list here. If I create a new item, I've got multiple forms with different fields on them. So the user can kind of step through filling out this form. So my issue 1, I'm going to assign this to myself. I'm going to set this a priority of low. I'm going to move to the next one, status in progress. Give it a description, give a date reported, and a website where it came from. Okay, now I'm ready to save it. And in this case, our expectation is that it just creates one item, which it does, and we see all of our fields have been filled out. We've got our date reported, assigned to, the description, so on and so forth. And then if we open this issue, we'll see all of the items filled out. And so then we can make a change to this if we want to. Let's say we make it critical now, and we change our description. And if we save that, we should see those changes take effect, which we do. So let's take a quick look at how this custom form is put together, and how it's different than what the user who sent the question was actually doing. So basically, we've got 3 screens here. So we've got form screen 1, form screen 1.1, form screen 1.2. And the original kind of instruction that we provided in our video, which for the most part works for me, was that to pay attention to all of the things going on in this SharePoint integration. So in the on edit, we set each of our forms to edit mode. In our on new, we set each of our forms to new mode, and so on and so forth. And then the key thing was in the on save, the original instruction was this little bit of code that I saved down here at the bottom, which basically says submit, submit, submit. And so we were simply submitting all 3 forms. And then what we were doing was basically relying on the on success of each of these forms. So if we look at one of these forms and we look at the on success event, there's logic in there that's like reset the form and hide the form. So we're relying on that to get kicked off in the case that the submit was successful, and then it closed the form and reset the form, and everything was good and everybody was happy. But for our user who was having the issue where it was getting submitted actually 3 times and creating duplicate entries, the real fix for this is to basically implement this logic that we've got right here. So basically what this is doing is this is figuring out if there is an item that's currently selected. So this would tell us if we're in edit mode or if we're in new mode. So if the form is open and there's not a current item selected, that means we're in new mode. And so in that case, what we want to do is we want to basically execute this command. And this is basically saying, send the data to the issue tracker list. So patch the list. And these are the defaults. So if there's anything that's not filled out, we're going to get the default values based on what that issue tracker list definition is. And then here's the data that we want to send in. So go find updates, meaning changes, from SharePoint Form 1, SharePoint Form 2, and SharePoint Form 3. So we send those updates in, and that basically gets any newness or differences from each of those 3 forms that we have, and sends them in this one command, which will basically create one item with all of our data in it. And then if in the case that it's actually selected, so in that case, we're basically going to use the same patch command, but this time our defaults are going to come from the selected item. So we want to make sure that we are basically updating the selected item. That's basically what's going on there. And then again, we're sending in those same updates from those 3 forms to that patch command, which is then updating our item. And so again, that'll just update one item. It won't create duplication of the item. And then the key thing to be aware of in this case is since we're no longer calling submit form for each of those forms, our on success and on failure events are not getting fired. So we need to account for that by explicitly calling our reset form for all 3 of our forms, and then request hide, which will make basically our customized form disappear and go away for the user. So that was kind of basically the change that needed to be made in order to make this safe and not create duplicate records. Matt, is there anything else I should touch on there?
The only other thing I was going to say was that the way that I like to think about the patch is it's like a merge. So what it's going to do is that first parameter, the issue tracker, is the name of the list. And then basically you can put as many objects as you want afterwards. And they can be an object. In this case, that's .updates, that's an object that contains the updates from that form. But if you wanted to just randomly create an object that you would then merge with the others, that's totally fine too. And what it's going to do is merge all those items together and create one object with like the sum of all of those parameters. So that's the one thing I would try to explain, is that the patch works that way, and we're just using that functionality with the way that the forms work to make them all come into one record, like you were talking about, to be sent to the patch and sent as either an update or an insert.
Yep. Good point. So I'll move on to our next question. So the next one has to do with basically a help desk form that notifies an administrator via email upon completion of the request. So is it possible to create deep linking in the email from Power Automate to take the admin directly to the request in the admin screen in my customized SharePoint form? So in the challenge they're having is when they do that, basically it's opening the first screen of the customized form, meaning the first item, and so it's not taking them to the correct item in the list. And so basically, I think the solution to the problem is in your Power Automate, you need to build a link to the specific item. So basically, you want to take the user to a specific item. Let's go ahead and create a new issue in our list, so that we have a couple to go from. Make this one critical. And we'll say it's blocked. Save this. So now we should have 2 items in our list. What happened to my first item? Did I delete it? There we go. So now I've got 2 items in our list, and the key thing to note here is when you click on these items, they'll open this form in this side over here and kind of in this info panel. But there's another way to access the item in particular. So if we look at this, there's an option up here to copy this link. And if you actually copy this link and then paste this into a new browser window, this will open that form directly for that item. And then the key thing to note here is that if you look at this URL, basically we've got our SharePoint site collection in our URL, our list in our URL. So whatever your SharePoint site collection is and your list, whatever the path is to that. And then you simply need to go to the display form or the edit form.aspx page with the ID of your particular item in question. So this took me to the display form. If I wanted to go to the edit form, I can simply do this, and it will open that same form in edit mode, ready for me to make a change to it. And so this is the URL, if you will, that you need to build inside of your Power Automate. So I'm not sure exactly what the URL you were trying to build was, but this URL, if it isn't on the item in particular, so probably like you get a URL to the item, like when the item changes, if that's how you're kicking off your Power Automate to determine if it's been completed. On item change, you can go get the link URL for that item. So let's go ahead and open that up really quick. So I'll open up a Power, actually I'll go right through my list. Let's go back here. And we're going to create a flow. So send a, let's see, let's do, this one should do the job for us for the example. Give it time to think. Create the flow. Okay, so now I've got a flow. I'm going to go in and edit this, and this should probably already have a link built, but let's go take a look at what it is so we can see how Microsoft does it. Okay, so this is going to send an email to me when an item is created. So it's monitoring my issue tracker list. And it looks like it is by so-and-so. And it looks like it's not putting a link into this. So let's go ahead and add a link in the bottom of this email. So we'll add dynamic content. So this is our link to the item. So I would expect that to just work for me. So now let's test our flow. So let's go out to our list. And save it. So there we've got a new item, so we should expect that flow to kick off. Oh, I love waiting on this. There we go, and it shows it succeeded, which means I should have an email. So let's go check that out and see what URL it gave me. Okay, so in this particular case, this is the URL that it gave me. So it's taking me to the list form. You see the ID is showing up there. ID is 45, and it's built a lot of other stuff into that URL. So let's go paste this in and see what this actually takes me to. So there you go. It actually takes me to that item in the list as I expect it to. I can edit that item just like in all the other cases. And so that it should be as simple as that. So if that doesn't answer the question, feel free to follow up and submit an additional question, or if you could provide some additional example to that, that would be good. And then there was a follow-up question to that as well, which was, let's see, where is it? Oh yeah, it wasn't a follow-up question, but it was an alternate option, which is if you wanted to build a Canvas app for your users to go to, you can build deep linking into the Canvas app by using a parameter that you can send into the Canvas app when the user goes to that Canvas app that can be picked up by that app and then take them directly to that particular item in your list in the Canvas app. The deep linking via parameter option is not yet available for customized SharePoint list forms. Maybe one day in the future it will be, but it's not available yet today. All right, I think that does it for our list of questions.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I was a little late joining the meeting, but I was very impressed with the examples that you showed here. I love Power Automate. It's an incredible tool. Yeah, I had a question regarding the new app designer, and now that it uses custom pages versus Canvas apps, as well as model-driven pages. And what I wanted to know is how do I navigate from a custom page back to a specific menu item on the model driven page? Like if I want to go back to a accounts view, what do I put in my that's a model driven view? How do I navigate from a button on a Canvas app back to the model driven app? Hopefully that I'll just drop that back to later. Go on.
So Don, do you have a working example of that, or something you're trying to put together that you could like share with us?
Yes, I do. Would you like me to share my screen? And it's what I've been working on for the consortium group.
If you're willing to share your screen, like this is being
Yeah, I don't know if do I have I don't know if I have that option enabled
You do, yes. It should be enabled for you.
to share a screen.
Yep, it should be enabled as an option for you now. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I need it's still grayed out, so let me give it a minute.
Let's check to verify that what I said is true, but I
I'm
think
using Teams.
Yep, yeah. Oh, you weren't made a presenter, so I'm gonna make you a presenter, okay?
Okay, I think that's. There we go. Okay, can you guys see my screen here?
Yep.
Okay, so we have a series of pages and things here, and let's just kind of go up to this custom page here. What I'd like to do is add a button right up here that's a back button that will navigate me back to, the parent record on the model driven app.
Which would be like an account or something like that.
That's right. Well, in this case, it'd be the project. These are project tasks, and what I'd like to do is navigate back to the model driven form for projects.
Mhm.
Did you try the back function?
No, I didn't. I did try the navigate and just put it in like I would any other, Canvas app navigation thing, but that didn't work.
Yeah, that probably won't work. Try to put a
With
button
the back
there.
button,
There's a
I
back
always have a hard
function.
time making back button work because it gets out of context if you go too many levels down. But yeah, I could try that if you think that's something that.
So specifically, there's a back function. The other thing would be if you can do like a, which I don't know if it would be ideal for your scenario, but you could use the launch function and then build the URL to that specific entity. But you have to know your
That's
like your
that's probably will work. That's probably the solution right there.
I think the only
using launch button with the URL makes perfect sense.
Yep. So
Okay.
the one challenge you might have with the launch button is, like in your scenario, you're going to know the URL that you have and the app GUID. So you need to use those to build your URL,
Right.
and then obviously you need the ID to the specific entity that you're going after, to get to that specific page with the data that you want. And so you could build that, but the launch button or the launch function, I think, will open a new tab.
It doesn't have to. You
Does
can
it have?
you can target the current one.
Is
That's
there a
a
toggle? Okay.
yeah. There's I forget what the I'm gonna go look up the parameters right now. That was a change that they made relatively recently. Here, I'm gonna go back to my example and verify quick.
Yeah. And I need to, I assume, possibly, keep track of the project ID as a parameter. I don't know if I need to worry about it going back, but I did need to pass it going forward from the project form record to this custom page where I'm showing dependent tasks or associated tasks to that project.
Right.
Yeah, so there's an address and then there's also a target, which can be new or it can be not new.
Perfect. Yep, that would do it then.
Here,
Awesome.
let me.
Okay.
So I'm gonna share my screen a second,
Okay.
just so we can show everybody what we're talking about here. So in Don's case, just so anybody else who's listening, he's dealing with a pretty complex scenario. He's using Dynamics and he's using model-driven apps and Canvas apps. So he's trying to incorporate all of those. So that's kind of what he's trying to do here, just so everybody else understands the question he's having. So in his case, he's got a model-driven app that is, generally speaking, pretty restrictive in what you can do from a look and feel and how it functions perspective. It's really built on the model exclusively, but he wants to use a Canvas app to display some more detailed and custom visualization. And so he has this built in to go one way, but how do you get back is the question
Yes.
that he's asking.
Yep.
So you can do navigate. Okay. And then as another option, you can do a transition. So I'm going to do, can do, there is a, oh, no. I know what it is. So there's a navigate, which just navigates. So we're going to try this a minute. And then there is also a new, it's called. Yeah. So navigate new is like, I believe this one is like brand new tab. So we're gonna check it out. We're gonna see what this does. Which apparently doesn't like. Mike, what am I doing wrong with this?
Well, so I don't think you can use navigate to go to URL. I think you have to use launch.
That's the one.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes. I was doing the wrong one.
launch.
We
Right.
talked about it the first time, and then I never, which is why launch new didn't show up. So there's this, and which doesn't have this. You're right. I was doing the wrong one, which has parameters, which is like the name parameters to be sent. Which I'm gonna just do this, but then target. So this is launch target new replace. So you can do replace, which will basically replace the current window. So if I save this, and I'll actually launch it. So I don't lose my editing window. Where it should, oh, it doesn't really, we didn't really save it because I haven't really created it yet. There we go.
Hey, Matt, have you noticed recently, or maybe it's been for a while, I just noticed it recently, that you can Control S and save your Power App?
Yeah, you've been able to do that for a while. It is very nice. I wish there was a way to publish too, because it's kind of annoying to have to go to the publish pane.
Yep.
Come on. Okay, so now I'm going to open the Onstart, which maybe it won't take me to the right screen because we have that security thing that we just put in. Oh, no, it didn't. So where did I put that? Sorry, I should have put this somewhere else. And I think we're going to screen 3 now, I think. But heck, I'll add it to both screens. So let me save this again. And we will put it back up again. And of course, it will not be ready quite yet. Come on. Like I can see both the buttons, but I don't see.
Do you have to publish your change?
I shouldn't because I'm the owner, so you
Owner,
should be able
yeah.
to see it. But I can do it, but I don't. It shouldn't matter. Whatever. I think it's just a matter of timing. I think publishing might really force it to be updated.
Yeah.
But it should have been updated anyways. But of course the designer, you're supposed to like, yeah, no, it's something. There we go. So if I click that, so you're right, it still does open a new window, even though I clicked replace, but I thought, you see what the other options are. Launch target, replace. I don't think it's new. I really don't, but we can try it. And there's not another, that's just, yeah, parameters and target. Underscore blank, which that's going to be a new window. So replace is supposed to do this. I'm pretty sure. See self? It's supposed to go take the place of where you're currently at.
I agree with you. Let me see if there's any issues.
I did it not that long ago because I did it for an app that I was working on not that long ago. But yeah, that's interesting.
So let's see.
If I can get to my new yeah.
Well, this launch approach is one way. One thing I did see in another YouTube video with Reza is he was using the defaults functionality to open up the detail form of a particular entity. So it was something like navigate, defaults, and then like accounts, and then open up. But I couldn't figure out a way to open up the view. So I don't know if this defaults, and I don't, is some way to, navigate from a custom page back to the model-driven app, but it at least did it for opening up the main form. But of course, I needed to open up the view, and that's why. And it was and opened up the view not on an existing record, but a new record. So it really didn't do what, but it did work. It did navigate back to the model-driven app and open up the accounts form in the new mode as a model-driven form.
Well, that's good at least. So the documentation, I've seen some documentation out there that says that it should be launch target.self. See if it'll take self instead of replace.
I'm sure it will. I don't know. Like all of the documentation that like even when you do this, like when I do replace, you can see it's equal to underscore self.
Yeah, but just do launch target.self.
Yeah, I gotcha. Like this.
No. Launch target.self. See if it barks at you or if it lets you do it. Yep. So it doesn't like it, even though
I know. So it's possible it's changed since, because I know this is like I said, this is a pretty recent feature. And I also know that I think you can put in your own thing, but I don't know how it determines this is different than the target. I'm gonna try this once to see. But so, Don, you were saying that you're in your particular scenario. Can you share your screen and show me, like, you're trying to get? You said you're trying to get back to where you came from.
That's
Could you
right.
show me like the navigation that you're trying to, like the actual navigation element that you're doing, like how someone's navigating?
Yeah, let me get back to the screen I was on here.
Which is what the other one's supposed to be. So it's really strange. It doesn't appear that that's any different.
Well, I know we have a limited amount of time here, so let's see.
That's all right. Just if you can show the way you're navigating, that would be great.
Okay.
Oh, I could still be doing launch instead of.
Yeah, like,
Or
I haven't added a back icon here, but I would add a back icon right here on this custom page, also known as a Canvas app.
Yeah, Canvas app.
Yeah,
but how did you get there? Can you show me how you navigate to there?
Oh, there I just use the menu. So if I go back to, yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So let me go back to the apps, and then let's just open up an app here. I really like this new app designer. It's still got a few little peculiarities. It's first generation, so but I can see it's going to be something. So let's say I'm over here on microdraws. This would be a custom page. Oh, this would be the custom page right here. Okay. But the idea would be to go from projects. Let's go to project view. And open this up. So this would be the project form record.
Yep.
And then I would have a button up here that would, well, then I'd have a button that goes to the mobile task. And I do have that on, yeah, but I can click on it here. So this is how I'd get to it. But I still have to work on passing a parameter so I get a filtered task list based on that specific project.
So the main reason you're using a Canvas app for this is because the layout of that gallery view. Is that right?
Well, at the end of the day, it's because when I have been presented on a mobile app, I want it to be, especially for the checklist process and the task process, that it be very
mobile friendly,
specific to a mobile friendly environment. Right. Thank you. Yeah. So that's the purpose of that. The rest of it is, just a navigation thing. You go into a project or, or going to loans and that kind of thing. I can deal with the responsive app of a mobile app. But when I get down to actually approving checklist items, so if you come over here, you can come, let's say, you click on this. I probably should run this as let me just play it real quick.
So you actually have a couple of things you need to solve. One is the back button, but then the other one is parameterizing that mobile tasks button.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
So that mobile tasks, like that's all defined in your sitemap.
mhm.
So yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if you can, because you need to pass something into that. You need to build that
Yeah.
link dynamically. I'm not sure if you can do that through
So
the sitemap.
so the other thing I would say though is, have you tried the list in a mobile app from the model driven app? Model driven apps are mobile friendly, quote unquote. And they have there's a whole app that you can use for model driven apps in mobile. Have you tried that out at all? Like, are you?
Well, I I don't know if I'm gonna have things like the signature block, right? Is that gonna be
Mhm.
something I can have access to a model
A
driven
model
app?
driven app? I mean, yes and no. You can do some custom stuff, but generally speaking, no. So yes, if your desire is that you can do something like this, it's a little bit more challenging. You still can create custom components that you would drop onto a model driven app, or you can have this would be more like some of this what you're talking about would be more like business process automation.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep, that's what it is. And but I think at the end of the day, even inserting a Canvas app as inside of a model driven form, which I think it's an option. It's been around for about a year. At
mhm.
some point, you know, dealing with the model driven app becomes more complex and challenging than doing the Canvas app. When you can use a model driven form and view and you don't have to really change anything, it's very efficient to develop that. But when you start doing, stuff where you got a signature and custom buttons and, you know, like you say, there's a way to do it inside a model driven app, but I don't know if it isn't more of an effort
Yeah.
than it
So
is to do it in a app out of the box.
yeah, like so there's a couple things going on here. I think like Don, obviously we have a little bit of a knowledge of each other in a history. You're
Hmm.
putting together an app as simple as you can, as quick as you can for this
Right.
consortium
That's right.
effort, this pilot.
That's exactly it.
And so you're trying to get like MVP going at some level, which I think you can get to. I think at the end of the day, the way that you might get around some of the challenges with it being a good user experience is ultimately a Power Apps portal, which we've talked about a little bit, or something similar, so that you can, have that completely custom experience that you might need, and that will get you, around some of these roadblocks or these challenges that you're having in mixing those two, model driven and Power Apps. And the reality, like for the consortium, this works because you're only letting a limited number of folks in the door, right, to review this. Um, I think the other challenge that we've talked about is, well, when you want to roll this out to 100,000 people, you're not necessarily going to want to add them all as users in your tenant, right? We need to let them in
That's
from
right.
the
Yeah,
outside
that's
somehow.
where the portal environment makes a lot of sense, just from a
Right.
licensing standpoint, and so I think you're absolutely right. But at least during this pilot and maybe alpha beta tester phase, that it could be very expedient to just,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
be concerned with the licensing and get it developed as quickly. And like I said, I can do this app quicker in Power Apps than I could a wireframe, and it wouldn't
Yeah.
be. That's
Yeah.
what I tell people. That people say, "Oh, Don, you must have spent a lot of time." I said, "Listen, I spent less time on this than I did." For one thing, Power Apps, model-driven app, it figures out all this
Yeah.
layout for me.
Yeah. All based on the model. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
it's a beautiful thing, and it's even responsive.
Yeah.
And doing responsive in Canvas apps, it's a little bit of challenge. You got to tweak it a little bit. It's not as intuitive and effortless as a model-driven app being responsive. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking. But you're right, Mike. I think long term, it's either going to be a Power Apps portal, or it may even be just an Azure
Custom dev.
website.
Yeah.
That we
Yeah.
can
Yep.
even make even more economically feasible.
So, back to your original question, I think the launch is your way. I don't know why the self isn't working. I know it works. Maybe it just doesn't work on my environment. I would try it on yours.
Okay.
That launch option, I think you have a lot of options to pass parameters back and forth, both into the Power App that could be stored to get back to the right spot, and also to send it in so that you can get what you want. One of the things that Mike went through earlier, which this will be recorded, you can go back and look at, is how to pass parameters into a Power App and read them so you can go to a Canvas app. So, excuse me, so you can navigate to a page. You could use the same exact logic instead of navigating to a page, but filter what you're looking to filter it by. So I would go back and look at that, but I think that that's the solution to your problem. I think that'll probably be good enough for what you need.
Right, and that's what I'm looking for at this stage, is something just to suffice for the interim. Okay, very good. Thank you very much for your help today.
Not a problem. So I know I got to jump off, and I know we're getting to the end of time, but I did want to, Don, so you can see it too. We're all working from home, and this is why I don't know if anybody can see here. Let me I got to turn off my yeah. I'm getting to it.
You're making it a worse blizzard than it actually is, Matt.
Is that any better? Probably
now,
not.
why are you showing us this?
There you go. Snow everywhere.
Oh, geez.
Snow.
That's a lot of snow.
Yep. All the kids are home from school today. All of the schools are closed. We're just kind of hanging out at home. So anyways, that's all I had to, I gotta jump off. I don't know, Mitch, if there was something else that we needed to go through, but. Don, thanks for the great questions.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great day, and hopefully you get a little better weather down the road here. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you. See ya.